Hey everybody, it's Mike. I hope you had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. I had a great few days away from work, spent at the beach with my wife Jamie, with our daughters Mia and Maddie, and their two boyfriends Jake and Cole, and we just had a fantastic weekend. And one of the things I love to do most when I have the opportunity to go to the beach is go for long runs. And while they're certainly not as long as they used to be, while they're certainly much slower than they used to be, my runs give me a chance to reflect, to think a little bit about what's been going on. And I went on that run a couple of hours ago. I'm still dressed the way I was then. And since I got back from my run, my oldest friend, my best friend in the world, a guy by the name of Mike Cherkis, stopped by our house, and we were talking about our runs and kind of making fun of ourselves and talking about how much shorter they used to be and how much slower they are than they used to be. And Mike said, we really should run together. And this is my best friend in the world. This is my oldest friend in the world. He's my brother. And I said, as quickly as he got the words out of his mouth, my response was, no, absolutely not. Because I cherish that time I get by myself. And this morning while I was running, I couldn't help but reflect on events that occurred last week, specifically the two staffers who were killed in the Israeli embassy, who were murdered in the name of anti-Semitism in the Israeli embassy. And it took me back to an event that occurred a couple of years ago. And that was, there was a hostage situation in a synagogue in Cooley, Texas. And the rabbi of the congregation and several of the congregants were held hostage by a lunatic. The FBI was called, and within a few hours, fortunately, the rabbi and the congregants were able to escape unharmed. But like the events of last week, the events in Cooley, Texas, they shook me. It was a stark reminder of the anti-Semitism that exists daily within the United States. And I am certainly not an overly religious person, but again, I was shaken by those events in Cooley, Texas. And perhaps because the synagogue that was involved kind of aesthetically looked like the temple in which I grew up in Newtown, Pennsylvania, in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And I remember going into work the following day, still a little bit shaken about what had gone on. And I remember approaching a colleague of mine who I'd known for quite some time. And I shared with that person how I felt, that I was scared, that it was difficult being a Jewish person in the United States in an era of meaningfully renewed anti-Semitism, of Holocaust denying. And in having the conversation with my colleague, I did not get empathy. I did not get kindness. I did not, frankly, get at all what I was expecting. Instead, what I got was a response that I thought was incredibly troubling, and the kind of thing that we hear far too often in workplaces. What I received in response to my vulnerability, my disclosure of being afraid was, well, now you know what it's like to be a fill-in other historically marginalized group. And I remember standing there in that moment, kind of dumbfounded, not knowing what to say in response, because it was not at all what I was hoping to receive, which of course was some understanding, perhaps some words of comfort, of encouragement. But instead, what I received from that person was what is referred to very often as the competition of pain. It's this idea that because I am in an historically marginalized group who has suffered in some way throughout a period of years or decades or centuries, that my struggle is in some way more important than your struggle, is more impactful than the horrors with which your people have dealt during those same days and weeks and decades and centuries. Friends, implicit in this competition of pain, this belief that what I'm enduring is in some way more important than what others are enduring is this very binary kind of thought process, which is there can't be an existence of discomfort, an existence of feeling marginalized by two groups at the same time. And we understand fundamentally that's simply not true. We need to do a far better job of really avoiding this competition of pain. And when I talk to organizations about mitigating against implicit bias, this is a conversation that becomes so crucial because a lot of us think far too often strictly about what we're struggling with or what we're encountering on a day-to-day basis, not paying attention, not using an outward mindset to try to appreciate the struggles with which others might be dealing. We must do a better job of avoiding the competition of pain. And I think there are three things, fairly simple things, we can do to mitigate against this competition of pain. One, feel your own feelings. There's nothing wrong with that. Give yourself permission. But at the same time, honor the emotions that others may be enduring at the same time. It is not a binary situation. Your feeling of pain does not mean somebody else can't be feeling something as well. Second, practice empathy, compassion, kindness. You've heard me mention so many times in these videos about non-competitive listening. Hear what that person has to say and examine it and respond to it, not just intellectually, but with kindness and with compassion. And finally, the third thing we can do, and I've a little bit referred to it already, is find the and. Find the AND. Again, this is not a binary situation. There are and can be and almost always exist more than one group that is feeling marginalized, feeling unseen or unheard, or in my situation, just plain old scared to be a member of that group, which feels like it's under attack. Find your and. Allow for the possibility that two things can exist at the same time. Number one, feel your feelings. Give yourself permission. Two, practice empathy over and over again. And finally, do your best to find that and. And while I'm hearing myself talk about finding the and, maybe I should reach back out to Mike. Give him a call, ping him a text, and let him know, you know what? Every once in a while, maybe we can go on those runs together. Maybe I can reflect and talk with him about situations that are going on. Maybe it doesn't have to be such a binary experience. Thanks so much, folks. Again, I hope you had a wonderful Memorial Day weekend. I hope you are getting ready to conquer the week. Thanks for listening. Thanks for commenting. Thanks for sharing. And hope to see you all real soon.